Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Yemeni American Chamber of Commerce second event. And I would like to thank Ahmed Hamad with the American Human Rights Council, Sam Al-Asri with YACC, Sam Al-Khaldi, the President of the Democratic Party in Dearborn, and welcome everyone to this event. To start this evening, our first speaker, Guide to Succession Planning from the organization SCORE, Laureen Greenwood.
Good evening. As you see, the title has changed a little from the plan. We originally were going to talk about buying and selling a business, but the attorney member we had is in the hospital, and so she can't make it today. This is a presentation we put together with some of our members in the past 6 months and presented several times, and it has a lot of things about buying a business as well as selling a business. So I think you'll appreciate all that's there. With me tonight, I have two of our other SCORE members, relatively new members, Savita Monroe, and she has this chain of spas, about 4 of them around the city, I guess, and Ron Blank, who formerly owned the Franklin Group that develops properties for fabricated housing, mobile home type things. He sold his business in the past July to a larger organization, so he's going to tell us a little bit about that experience later on. So I look forward to both of them joining me here and throughout the program, but we'll get going. Again, there's presentation copies in the back table. There's also a number of SCORE publications relative to small business. The latest SBA publication is there as well. So stop by. If you didn't get any on the way in, please stop by on the way out. Okay. What happened? There we go. All right. You've been staying on for the last hour and a half, but I guess. So, the fact is most businesses fail after the first generation. So 30% are gone after are only there after the second generation, 12% in the third and fourth, down to 3%. A lot of reasons for that. Sometimes the next generation doesn't want to carry it on. Sometimes the business is fading out. It's not timely anymore, or a number of reasons can make that happen. But it's something to consider. I know my brother has a business, a window and door replacement business, and he's got 3 sons. He was very interested in having one of them or 2 of them take it over, and none of them wanted to do that. So now he's getting to the liquidation phase if he doesn't die first. Okay, a lot of people don't have the proper plans in place. There's, 41% had a documented succession plan, which I think is pretty good, but 60% don't have a buy-sell agreement. This can be a problem, especially where there are partners involved. I know one fairly large company, $300 million corporation up to $1 billion corporation, and the key owner, he had 5 partners, but the key owner never set up the proper buy-sell or succession. They had to sell the company to a larger firm in order to take care of the taxes when he died. So have a buy-sell agreement if you have partners. 100% of people are going to exit their business whether they plan to or not. So, sometime you're not going to be there to run the business. What goes into succession planning? Well, the documented part and the communicated part. The goals, what do you plan to do? Do you plan for your son to take it over or your daughter to take it over? Do you plan to sell the business? Just what do you want to do? Do you want to sell it and retire? I had 5 friends who owned a business together, and their plan was to sell it to a larger company and retire eventually at a fairly young age. They managed to succeed in that. They both became millionaires out of that deal, so it can happen. Who do you want for your successor? Again, you know, are you considering a family member? Are you considering developing someone within your management ranks to take it over? Or are you considering selling it to a larger company or going public where you might phase yourself out of there? And that gets back to the ownership. How are you owned today and how will you be owned in the future? Are you set up as a corporation? You're probably set up as an LLC, most companies are, or an S Corp. But you know, at some point you gotta say, what's the ownership gonna look like? If you sell an IPO, an initial public offering, you sell stock, then you become just a member of the ruling committee, shall we say, but you're not making all the decisions. I had a friend of mine who had a rather successful software company down in Cincinnati, and he brought in a lot of venture capital to help grow the business. But at one point in time, the venture capitalist said, you know, we don't want to grow that part of it anymore, and they had different ideas than what he had, and he wound up getting booted out of his own company. So, you know, you have to be careful how things go. We'll talk more about that. And then, you know, the management. How are you going to do the management? Again, what's the structure going to look like? And then how do you transfer the ownership? Do you do it all at once, or do you phase it in? I have a friend who's an optometrist, and he's 86 years, or 89 years old last week. And until he was 85, he owned the business, had his son working there. And then he turned it over to his son, and he's now an employee since he was 85 years old, but he's still working 3 days a week. The finances, you know, there's a lot of different ways to finance both with the sales side, how much money you're going to get out of it. Do you get it all in one big chunk or over extended time? What's the tax implications and all? And then the communications. The bottom half of this is you need to communicate your plan to all your key partners or owners, your spouse, anyone involved, all of your attorneys and accountants and so bankers that you work with, so they know where you're heading in the future. And especially to your key employees, and hopefully you have an open business that you can talk to all the employees about it. So be prepared for the unexpected. We talk about 4 key strategies there. Key person insurance. If, you know, an individual owner or an important member of the management should be covered by a key person insurance. Business purchase of life insurance. It could be a term insurance for while they're still working there, and gives the business the death benefits. Business continuation with life insurance. Businesses purchase a life insurance policy on the owner, guarantees repayment of the loans, and gives time for the orderly sale of the company. Disability insurance. Suppose you get injured, suppose you become disabled, Parkinson's or something, where you can no longer do the job you were doing, then you should have a disability insurance business on yourself and on the other partners that are key, if you have any. Buy-sell agreement funded with life insurance. Again, if you have multiple partners, then there ought to be buy-sell agreements where it's funded by life insurance that the company carries, so that one can buy the other out without going broke in the process or without having to commit all their assets to it. So we talk about 6 ways to exit a business. And we'll go through these in more detail in the following slides. But go public, in other words, an initial public offering, sell your stock to the public. An employee stock ownership plan. We'll explain a little more about that later, but this is where you have your employees basically buy out the company. And then a gift to a family member. That's a way many businesses transfer to the family because there's no tax implication in that. Sell to an outside buyer. That has its own complications, and we'll talk about that. And then inside management buyout. So if you have managers, key managers in the business, and they're capable of running it, then work out a plan over a number of years of how they're going to buy out the business. Going public. Pros can bring immediate wealth. The cons is you give up a lot of the controls of the company. And the risk is, like I mentioned with another fellow, you wind up not running the business and not doing what you want to do with it. Employee stock ownership plan. These are relatively limited but there are organizations that specialize in providing these, and there's one right here in Detroit. It can be expensive and complicated. They say only 12,000 of them set up. It requires 2 to 3 million in revenues and 20 plus employees. Now, that used to be this organization in Detroit, which I can refer you to if you are interested, get hold of me. And they have developed plans where relatively small companies can set up an employee buyout of the company and take advantage of some of the ESOP tax advantages and so forth. It's a kind of complicated structure. It's a relatively new idea. They're copying this from what they do in England, they told me. I met with a fellow earlier this week on Wednesday and talked about their organization, and they can be very willing to help you. They are a nonprofit, so they're not looking to sell you something. They're just looking to help you with establishing an ESOP in some form or another so your employees can buy out the organization. It can also help in establishing a company. They've developed some parts of this where you can bring in employees who also invest in the company and set it up a little differently than usual. So some interesting activities going on right now that allow you to do things you couldn't do a year ago. Gift to a family member. Of course, that you'd like to do this, you'd like to pass it on to your family. You'd like them not to pay a whole bunch of taxes on it, so figuring out how you do that. And again, do they ever exit the business? Like I mentioned, my optometrist friend at 89 years old, still going in 3 days a week. Luckily, he's a kind of nice fellow, so I don't think his son wants to kick him out. But it comes a time when you get tired of dad hanging around. Sell to an outside buyer. Of course, you get the most dollars. They say you may be forced to share key elements of the business with the competition. Well, that may be true, but if you select how you sell it properly and what information you put out there, then I think you can protect that. And after analyzing the business or uncovering the secrets, the buyer backs out. So again, you've got to have a very structured process, and Ron will talk about that later on. Management inside buyout. So this is great. You want to help with your employees. You want to arrange it that they can take it over. If someone's been managing the majority of the business for a number of years, then you can feel pretty confident. On the other hand, if the fellow is just a good engineer or a good salesman, will he ever have the capability of being a CEO? So you have to look at that and evaluate it carefully. You can even have some of these psychological testing firms do some tests, just like you do when you're hiring someone. Liquidate. It says 7 questions. If they suddenly couldn't work anymore, what else would happen? Would a spouse, child own or control your stock? Would you be liable for your debts? Would they be liable for your debts? Do they lack executive experience? Would sales fall in the short term? Would profits likely decline? Would key employees consider leaving? Then that's a risk. Would clients think about leaving? I had a fellow that owned a very successful industrial washer machine company. They built the machines that wash the big automotive parts and so forth. But he ran that company with an iron fist, and all the managers underneath him really looked to him to make every key decision. And I looked at buying this company at one time, 50 years or so ago, but after I looked at it, I said, nobody there can operate unless he's around telling them what to do. So it just wasn't appealing, because now you'd have to build a whole new management structure in order to bring that company back up on its feet. And they note below that this is what happens 40% of the time, and yet only 13% that say that's their desired plan. Business evaluation. Why do you want an evaluation? To have another measure of your business health success, to know that the business has value in the marketplace, to prepare the business for sale, and to find it sufficient to fund retirement. And of course, you need a good evaluation for financing and looking at the potential to grow the business and what can you really sell it for later on. And as they say below, the need, if you have multiple owners, you've got to fund that buy-selling agreement. You've got to fund the retirement so that you can retire with some monies. And when you're ready to sell, determine the asking price and the estate tax to find the burden of the state tax. But you know, it's important to have an evaluation made to keep it current every 3 years or so, and that's going to be a key of a lot of your financing and eventually the sale price. And it gives you a realistic view. You know, many people have an unrealistic view of how much a company is worth. Others don't realize how much it's really worth. So get some expert advice and have them evaluate it. Potential buyers can include first-time buyers transitioning out of corporate America. I've had several people we work with a franchise organization called FranNet, and they help recommend franchises to people. And many of their buyers are people that are retired executives, and they want to keep doing something. They want somewhere to invest their money, to make more money, and franchises can be a neat way of doing that. There's a lot of franchises where you're absentee ownership even. So that's been one place that he's really looked to build his business, in the franchise area. Competitors and vendors. Many times your competitors would like to buy the firm. I'd suggest, you know, somebody that knows the business may be a competitor, but they're not right in your neighborhood. They're not selling the exact product you are, something of that nature. Existing employees. Again, we talked about the ESOPs, but maybe there's a strong group of existing employees who would like to buy the company. And investment groups and investors. I think Ron will tell us a little more about that. Family members, of course, and then foreign and public companies. The machine tool company I mentioned with the 5 partners, they were bought out by Thyssen, a German firm, because they had machine tool companies in Germany and they wanted a branch in the United States. Financing through SBA loans. This just gets into some details. You know, if you're dealing with how to finance things or whatever, the SBA has a lot of programs to help that in different respects, banks and small lenders and development funds. In that book in the back, there's a book, a guidebook on small business for Michigan, has a lot of their programs listed in it for your information. Now, how do I sell a business? Where do I sell a business? Where do I buy a business? So this is one of the most useful slides, I think, is here's a whole list of websites where you can look up deals. You know, can't recommend what any one of them is the best ones, but there's a lot of places there, and there's another place you can list your business to sell it through brokers. Locally, you can deal with CPA firms or mergers and acquisition advisors or investment banks. They're always looking for deals. They're always looking for other people. So if a client says, I want this kind of business in the Detroit area, they can go out and find it and make you an offer you maybe can't refuse. That's what happened. I was with a company called a stamping company, and they were bought out by a larger company called Peregrine, which was spun off from part of GM's Delco division when they were getting rid of all the part suppliers. And so they weren't a direct competitor, but they were in the stamping business, they were in the plastics business, and we were in the stamping business, had 3 plants, and so it became a nice fit for them. Unfortunately, at the end of it, they went broke, and the only ones making money were the 3 plants that we had. I think Ben also was here in real estate, and I bet you were buying and selling businesses too, right, Ben?
Yeah.
So there's a broker for you. Okay, what's the process look like? I won't go through this in detail. You can see a lot of the steps, but the planning. So when you get together with a specialist in the area and go through the plans, you develop a strategy and then get all your information together. You have generally these bigger acquisitions, they'll have a war room, a confidential area where you can go in and look at the books, review a lot of the materials about the company, about their customers and everything else. But it takes a few hoops to get through that. And then you get to the deal and the negotiating of that, and just how the money's going to, where the money's going to come from for the buyer and so forth. So, Ron, if you could come up here, I'd like you to talk about a little bit about your experience.
Okay. So I spent the last 35 years in the manufactured housing industry.
if you're familiar with mobile home parks, seen them around. We had several communities in southeastern Michigan, and my brother and I thought that we would run the communities forever and then pass it on to two of my three sons that live in the area still. My brother doesn't have any kids, so it simplified that decision. As some people, if you have a business partner that might be a brother, and I had the greatest business partner in the world with my brother, he didn't have any kids, so we didn't have the same challenges as some companies run into, or some, when this brother has 2 kids and this brother has 3 kids and they all want to be in the business, and it just creates some complications at times, some anxiety. But the reason why we decided to sell versus passing it on was kind of twofold. One, the equity environment in the country today, there's a lot of money out there looking for places to invest. So with whatever your businesses are, you don't necessarily need to consider selling it to somebody that's in your business, in your industry, depending on the type of business. There might be private equity companies out there or other types of financing and people looking to invest that you're just not aware of. There's private equity, there's what's called family office, and that's basically wealthy families that are looking to invest their monies in the different businesses. So that was one of the reasons that we sold, because of the private equity environment. The other reason was, at 60, turning the business over to my sons that would have done a great job. I didn't want to be 70 and get dragged back in to another economy that we just got over. And I'm sure everybody felt that in 07, 08, 09, 10. So we made that decision. It was more difficult for me than for my brother, because to some degree I felt like I was letting my kids down, because they definitely were looking at that as being their future. So when we came to evaluating our properties, I would recommend to you that you understand what your business is worth. So your business isn't worth what you would pay for it. And when we looked at our communities, which would be valued from our NOI, our net operating income, which is typical in real estate, we would have paid X for it. And we ran these businesses every day for the last 35 years. But when you get other people into it, you bring X amount of dollars out of the business, and they may very well be looking for a smaller return on their money than what you have experienced. So it's really important that you understand what somebody is willing to pay, not what you feel your business is worth. Again, real estate typically is valued by net operating income. Operating companies, like one of our suppliers that sells widgets, their companies are valued by their EBITDA. And multiples on both ends. So you need to understand what the market is dictating as to what those multiples would be. And when interest rates are low, those multiples are high. So, which is what makes the environment what it is today. Because even, the Fed just announced last week that they're not going to raise rates again in 19. We thought they were going to do it at least twice based on what they said. So that is great for the capital markets. Valuation. You need to figure that out. So it's very, very important. You need to understand what your tax liabilities are going to be. Could be the difference between you selling and not. And if you're not careful, you could sign a contract and then go to your accountants and find out that you should have allocated assets in a different way that would have made a huge impact on the money that you net after taxes. You know, capital gain comes into play. There's a lot of things to consider. So really, once you determine, in my opinion, once you determine what the market will pay for your business, your next step needs to be what your tax implications are. And if you don't understand that, you could get a very unfortunate surprise on the 15th of April in the following year. So, very, very important. I, by the way, don't necessarily agree that accountants and appraisers are necessarily the people that are best to value your business. You guys understand it better than anybody. You need to sit down with, there's people out there that specialize in mergers and acquisitions that have these equity people. If it's real estate, you go to a broker. My recommendation is if you're going to either one of those people, you're going to people that specialize in the sale of your business. So for us, we had 35, 40 people that worked for us. We had people that had been with us for over 30 years, and now we were gonna sell to some big company, and we cared a lot for these people. A book was recommended to us, written by an author named Bo Burlingham. He's a business writer, and it's called Finish Big. And if you were gonna sell, I would highly recommend. It's a quick read, and it goes through some of the things that you should consider when you're selling your business. And one of them, which was very important to us, was the culture of the company that was buying us, how they were gonna treat our employees. And at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose my employees. So one of the things that we instituted was what we call the stay bonus. So depending on your years of service with the company, we bonused our staff from the most important person in the organization down to, you know, the lesser, and even the people that were there just a year. And everybody got a stay bonus commitment from us, which meant that they would get this bonus once we closed, as long as they were still employed. So that made it better for the company that was buying us, because we didn't want to turn the company over to them, our life's work, and have all of our staff having exited, you know, over the last, couple of months. The other thing that I would suggest, and the last thing that I had to say, is that when you commit, well, right now today, you may not even be thinking about selling your business. And my recommendation is that you start working as if you're going to sell it, and do the things that would make your business more attractive for a buyer. And the other thing is, once you get under contract, or as you're going under contract, you want to work harder than you've ever worked. Don't look at the contract and the dollar numbers and get all excited about it and kick your feet back. You need to work as hard as you possibly can, as hard as you ever have, because it could all unravel on you. And if you sit back and relax, just waiting for payday, it wouldn't be good. So that's all I had to say, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Ron. So, yes,
I'd ask Ron one question. That stay bonus, that seems like the buying company, that'd be a bigger concern to them than to you, unless somehow they kick in extra money or it helped raise your price.
So,
How'd that all work?
so, my brother and I both read that book, Finish Big. And one of the items in there was, one of the chapters in there spoke about
okay.
what's important to you, okay, as the business owner selling. When you walk away and ride off into the sunset, how are you gonna feel? Some people don't care. Some people, look, they worked, they were paid every day, and I owe them nothing.
Right.
For us, it was very important that we left with the feeling that we did everything we could for our staff. And like I said, we had people that were there for 30 years. I had a woman that worked for us, and in one of our communities, when I met her, we were both in our 20s. She had a cute little baby, And she had, a few years later, she had another child, her second of 3 children, and she raised that child in the closet in her office. That's where the playpen was. So, I mean, I've been to their weddings, I've been to their parents, to their funerals. I mean, these people were family to us. So we wanted to do what was gonna make us feel good. So it definitely took money off the table, out of our pocket.
It was 100% your money, right?
Yeah, 100% our money, yes. Yeah, so, but it was important to us. And to some people it wouldn't be,
Yeah.
but to us it was, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We have a couple special people that joined us this afternoon. I would like to have State Representative Abdullah Hamoud say a few words. Welcome to the Yemeni American Chamber of Commerce.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm dressed like this. I took my mom to Costco, and if you go with the Arab woman to Costco, it takes about 3.5 hours. So it took longer than expected, but thank you for having me here. Just to give you guys a brief background about myself, I'm actually a business student now at UMNR for the Roth School of Business. Graduating hopefully in 1 month with a focus on entrepreneurship and finance. With another master's degree previously. Oh, we also have State Representative Isaac Robinson in the back. So I have somewhat of a deep understanding for business. My mother's a small business owner here in the Dearborn community, and many of my relatives are also small business owners. So rather than me talking to you and saying what I think you should be doing or so on and so forth, I'd like to take a few questions, maybe ask, what resources do you need as members of the community, as business owners in the community, that maybe myself in partnership with Isaac and my colleagues can provide you? Some of the ideas we're actually providing now is we actually want to provide micro loans for small businesses with employees, less than 10 employees. We want to make sure that you have easier access to resources in order to expand and build up your business, open up a second location, whatever it may be. We're also big advocates for establishing a small business director within the state of Michigan. So we actually have a designated entity that is focused on just building up small businesses. The reality is, small businesses relative to big businesses get all the attention. They get all the tax incentives, they get all the giveaways, and if you want to grow the economy, you can do it in 2 ways. You either give away everything you can to big businesses, which I'm not a big fan of, or you actually invest in your small businesses and allow them to flourish and grow. And that's the path I'd like to take. So if I can just, any questions, any comments about what you would like to see from us, or what resources you would like that we can provide for anybody that may have. No questions or comments. Well, I can at least tell you, go ahead.
I have a question, but it's SCORE presented before in the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce how to start a business, a seminar before. So actually, it's not my question. My wife's question. She said, "What you guys can advise the ladies at home who want to start a business from house, like how to work from home?"
Yeah.
She told me to ask this question to SCORE company. What is their advice for anybody in general to start a business at home, and what kind of support they can get from the state too?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So my mom started her business from home. She actually now has a small insurance agency in the city of Dearborn. She started working from home though. I think, let me give a shout out to the Arab American Women's Business Council. It's actually an organization of Arab American women that empower women and provide them with resources, provide them with mentorship to start their own businesses. So I think that more than anything is more valuable than what I can provide. And I'm happy to connect and create that relationship there. Additional resources we can provide is we have a lot of hand pamphlets in our offices that just walk you through the steps on how to establish your LLC, how to look up a name for a company, kind of going through the basics. So I can provide those pamphlets maybe to the chamber for them to start having
What
it.
are the requirements and regulations concerning to start any business?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the pamphlets detail all these various
Yeah,
requirements.
thanks so much.
Working through the Department of Licensing or Regulatory Affairs or whatever it might be.
Thank you so much.
No, of course.
Are there any tax incentives for small businesses right now, or what's the plan?
So in terms of tax incentives for small businesses, the difficulty is how the state has defined small. Small, not meaning our mom and pop shops here within the city of Dearborn. Small as in you're making $20 million a year. which for us is not necessarily small. And so that's why we're actually working in legislation to provide resources for those businesses that have less than 10 employees, defining small differently, leveling the playing field between our small businesses here in the community versus what others are considering small. So those are things we're currently working on that I know of for certain.
Thanks.
I think you're going to see some healthcare plans for small businesses come up, trying to work with small businesses to ensure they have a means of providing healthcare, but not having the burden of the cost itself. Larger corporations obviously have a bigger means of providing healthcare and better benefits to employees, which sometimes makes the competition between large and small businesses a little more difficult. So we're trying to do more with small businesses also so that they can provide better benefits and better healthcare.
How about grants? Are there any grants for small businesses? Like, I know some like through SCORE, they have some, grant loans.
Yeah.
and private loans.
The loans within the grants, within the state largely depend on what you're doing. Most of the grants we provide are for nonprofits who are, I sit on the Health and Human Services budget and the healthcare side. A lot of the grants we offer are for those organizations that are tackling childhood obesity, smoking, and various components. So it really depends on where your entity is established, what you're doing, for those grants to be available.
These grants could be for profit as well.
The grants largely are not-for-profit companies. Whenever there's a request for proposal, though, if you want to land a contract with the state of Michigan, there is a segment of contracting specifically for minority-owned businesses. So that is a segment of, that's going through an RFP process and saying that you want to do, you want to handle this portion of the business with the state of Michigan. So that's, that's more the profit round. The grants is more of the nonprofit route. Yep. Any other questions? Awesome. If you need anything, I think most of you know how to get a hold of me. If not, I'll provide you with my email, phone number, whatever it might be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership. Up next is my state representative. I live in Hamtramck, so I got to say this. Isaac Robinson.
What's up, everybody?
Good, thanks.
Rep. Hamoud did a great job covering healthcare, business innovation, and all I gotta do is say a quick greeting. Thank you for handling that. Welcome to the Detroit Dearborn border. It's a border where they don't gotta build no walls. Where we're all a community working together for jobs, justice, and peace. I'm here to learn. I really like the billboard here, free mentoring. Like anything for free. And it's a big issue in our communities with struggling block club leaders who want to get nonprofits going or the mom and pop store that wants to see us going. So I'm here to learn. And me and Rep. Hamoud do have a lot of resources in Lansing, especially policy resources. So when you ask the question, what's available for small businesses, if you have any other questions or identify problems, a lot of times we have policy staff, some nonpartisan, some Democratic policy staff who can kind of go to work and look at some of those issues. Every day we get 3 or 4 visitors to our office between committee and session, and we have all types of small businesses who are having challenges. Our friends in who work with the plants in the nurseries, in the wintertime, they can't, there's no growing of plants and shrubs, so they have a lot of issues as seasonal workers, so they're looking for a legislative remedy. So sometimes, whatever your problem is, small or big, come to us and maybe we can work with you on that. Or maybe make a phone call to maybe another agency or another entity or a possible sponsor or some connection. So we're available. I'm available. I see half people in this room 3 times a week. We are family, like the old song. We are family. Hey. Anyway, bless you all. I kept it under 1 minute. Peace and love. Score. Score. Now, even if you're gonna wear the flag around your neck, you got a cowboy hat, man. What's up?
I got one at home. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Greenwood, to cut in the program. Take the mic.
Thank you. It's interesting. I was at I guess about a month ago, they were in Hamtramck and had the group there talking about business development in Hamtramck, and we've been active there. We've worked with Global Detroit, which is a group that helps immigrant organizations. Their special targets are Hamtramck with the Bangladesh and the Yemeni community, and also in southwest Detroit with the Mexican community there. But there's organizations throughout the communities, and there's lots of places you're talking about getting help for the small business or a nonprofit. SCORE is unique in that we do, SBA is not allowed to work with nonprofit entities, but we are. And we're one of the few that are. Many of the organizations are tasked by their charters to only serve for-profit companies. But we have several publications on nonprofits, and I've worked with probably a third of the people I see are nonprofit organizations. And we're nonprofit. Okay, get my clicker here. So what's the value of your business? I think as Ron made the best point is, you have a feel for it. Get one of the experts to help you. May not be M&A, but somebody that's been evaluating businesses. They'll think of things you don't think of, but you can also help them understand what the business is worth to the outside community and to your customers. And they mentioned there's a lot of intangible assets. If you have patents, copyrights, franchises, trademarks, falls under goodwill. So these are things that add to the value of the company, but they aren't necessarily there's no number on it. You have to establish a number how much that's worth. How many here own a business?
I'm a lawyer, does that count?
Yep. Depends how you do the law. But okay, who can value my business? Again, as we mentioned, certified public accountants, mergers and acquisition advisors, and some insurance companies. When the insurance company looks at insuring your business, then they have to say, what's that worth? If the place burns down, what happens to your business? What's the value? So there's other organizations, the National Association of Certified Evaluators and Analysts, and the American Society of Appraisers. But it's important to find a credit agency, but always take a second look at things. It's always good to have your own accountant, CPA type, look at whatever you're going over with the firm that's doing evaluating as well. So best practices, again, and this, if you want to buy a business, same thing. Some of the people I've worked with, they started 2 or 3 years ahead saying, well, I want to retire from my job and I want to start this kind of business. Or I'm working for somebody else doing this, but I want to do it on my own. And how do I get there? So they can start, there's a feed store that the fellow's had it for years and years. He wants to get out of it and retire because he's in his 60s. And he has a young guy working there who would really like to buy the business, but of course he's young and he still hasn't built up the assets for that. So we've talked about a number of things. How do you buy a business from someone when you don't have the funds in your own pocketbook, but you're going to have to bring somebody else into this? So get a written plan in place. Have your advisors you look to for advice, the current people you work with, your attorneys and so forth. Spread the word discreetly. And then include in the description the information on revenue and cash flow, good reason for selling. So just for seeking new opportunities, not a good reason. But most businesses, they're trying to realize some value out of it for some reason, whether it's retirement, whether it's expanding beyond where they are today and so forth. And at some points, do a formal evaluation, but as Ron mentioned, you can do a lot of that yourself and save yourself a lot of money. So resources, a business partner, your lawyer, SCORE, a financial professional, family members. And sometimes you have family members who are in businesses and can help you a lot. You want somebody to have your best interests at heart, demonstrate high ethical standards, understand the needs of business owners, run a small business before, work with a person for a long time, be responsive, and get back to you quickly. Only 18% have spoken to someone they consider an expert in exit planning. So it's important that, you know, the best organizations sit down and have an exit plan, a succession strategy as part of their initial business plan, so they know where they're going and why they want to get there, and of course the business plan is how you get there. So 6 things to start thinking about now. Know all options for exiting the business and the ramifications of each. Know the value of the business. Select and prepare the right successor, or find one somewhere. Put it in writing. Review the plan at least every 3 years and build your team of advisors. Okay, I'd like to call on our other guest from SCORE. Shoot. Give me your name again. Savika, okay. If you could join us for a minute. She owns, with the family, 4 spas around the Detroit area and is looking to expand even further and trying to improve and grow the business. And I think some of her thoughts about where you locate and so forth could be most useful. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Savita, and we own threading spas and also starting to own spa in itself, spa and wellness centers. So my advice to women is to really look at what your passion is, first of all, to see what you really like to do, because you're going to be doing it for a while, and making sure that that's what you want to do. Growing a business is not an easy task, so really understanding what you want to do really helps with the adventure of trying to own your own business. So my sister-in-law started the business, and she started it again working full-time, and she got laid off from work and decided, you know what, I cannot rely on big companies to support me. So she started her own business from her home and started to learn about how to start a business. So she went to school, got herself a license as an esthetician, and really started to work through it. And she looked around and see what was really lacking. And when she started the business, the lacking was threading. There was really nobody really doing well in threading. So she started in a very small kiosk in a mall and started to really look at, what are some of the things that she can add on. So she started in a mall, in a small cart, and she started to do threading there, and then she expanded from that. So this is her really wild story of somebody she didn't have any education, she's not a graduate of any kind, she's not even a high school graduate. So she started to think about what are the opportunities are, what is missing, what is missing in the community, what is missing, what is the competition is like. So to looking at it all, really looking at well-rounded as to what your passion is, first of all, my advice would be, and then looking at what are the opportunities. What is your community missing that you might be able to help them with? And then taking that to the next level and taking it to seeing, okay, if there's a space available, where you can start off very small and then grow. So now she started very small in a cart, in a mall. And then now she owns 4 locations, and we are hoping to expand more by just looking at the opportunities, creating the talent pool that's going to help us do that. That's another reason that's very hard to do, is to find the people who are going to be doing the threading. So really understanding how you're going to get that pool of people and really training them properly and making sure that they're doing a good job. So that's one of the things that we're at the moment is tasking us to kind of grow. So we're trying to create that pool to make sure that we have the right people doing the job, because in a service industry, which I come from, product development industry, I was a senior vice president and I developed product, which is so different than service, where product, if you don't have the money, you don't need it, right? So service industry is like everybody needs some type of grooming, either a haircut or eyebrow threading. So it's a little bit different than where I grew up in the business world. So this has been a little bit of a challenge for me to learn, but I've been in with her for about 2 years, and growing the business because I come from the branded world and learning how to make sure the experience is proper. We are trying to do that with making sure that all of the brand value is with the service that we serve. So one of the things that I would really recommend is, first of all, is to really see how you want your customer to perceive when they walk into your space. What kind of things that you can do different that is not being done anywhere else. So one of the things that we offer is being courteous, being really respecting that customer because that's what's paying their bills. So that's one of the things that people forget when they own their own business. They really don't treat the customer properly. So that's one of the things that, when I came in there, I go, this is our God in a way because they're the one who's paying our bills. So those are type of things that we're kind of installing and kind of really looking at as we grow. So we're really looking into growing our businesses either in Detroit or in the farther west side because there's not anything there at that time. So again, looking at the competition, looking at the surrounding area, and trying to see, making sure that there's nobody out there, or if there's moderate competition, that you can excel on it by offering something that they don't have. So that's what I have to offer. If anybody has any question.
Let's
So we grew, it took us, we've been in business for 10 years. So in the past, I would say past 4 years, we have started to grow more. So as we talk about family, working with family, it is not an easy task. Everybody has their own little agenda. So as Score has mentioned, and Ron has mentioned, and Lauren has mentioned, having a written documentation of what you're expecting from your partner, even if it's a family partner, know what you want to do with that partner, having that communication, making sure that you guys both have the same goals as you grow the business or if you're trying to exit, because that's going to be very important to you. So it's been, we've been in business for 10 years. We've had 4 locations. We're hoping to have more. So it really is, for us, it's really been a struggle for getting the talent. So we would grow even further, but talent is a big gap for us. So it all depends on if you know people and if you have people that you think, for my sister-in-law, it's really about a family. So she really wants to make sure she grows with the family. So for her, she wants to bring her successors to be her daughter, her cousins, her nephews, and her nieces. So she really wants to take care of her whole family. So I know that being myself as an Indian and I can see the community being that's how your community as well is. So I would suggest that make sure whatever you do, have clear communication and clear goals of what you want your business to be and how you want to succeed with it and how you want to go forward.
my question is also, what's your advice for any lady to start a business? What's the first step to do to start a business?
So first of all, my advice would be to find out first what she wants to do. What her passion is really, because it is not an easy task to be an entrepreneur and to be able to and make sure that you're really passionate about it, and also who are the people around you who will support you. Because starting a business, you want to make sure your husband will support you. For women, that's really hard to do a lot of times. So making sure that you have supporters who can support you, because even opening a business, my brother, who helps her a lot, he does a lot of the manual work because, we don't have starting your own business. It's hard to find people to do the job and not charge you arm and a leg. Right. So having somebody who can help you to support you, that's what I would suggest, is to make sure that my advice to her is to first figure out the passion that she wants to do, either it's making jewelry or it's buying clothes, whatever it is that she loves to do. Because I think if you find the passion, then you will give it all you got. And then having the support. So supporting people, having somebody who can support you through that whole, the whole journey of trying to get to the next level.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Have you thought about doing like franchise? You're interested in doing managing as a family business?
yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So, yes, that is one of the things that we are trying to do, but as I think everybody who owns their own business, they know that starting a franchise, you have to have processes in place, right? So to be repeatable processes. So at the moment, when you're a family oriented, there's no repeatable processes. You know, everybody's just kind of doing their own thing. So, but that's one of the things that we are installing is repeatable processes so that we could be a franchise. So yeah, so you read my mind. Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, we'll kind of throw it open for general questions now, while we still have Ron and Savita here, and I'll try and answer anything I can, but I'm not the expert in this. I just create a lot of memories from being in business for 60 years. I know a lot of things that have gone on one way or another. So, questions?
So I go back to the same question. What kind of businesses you recommended for anybody interested to start from the home? Not just go rent a place, pay rent, pay,
Yeah.
things.
Well, there's I've got a list at home, and I can get it to you. You send me an email, but it's score put together 43 businesses you can start for under $1,000. So and most of those you run out of your home. Obviously, you don't have a storefront or anything.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of if you look at any business, any service business, you can probably run it out of your home, one way or another. I had an unusual fellow. He trains police snipers, and so he had a big trailer, and he would take this equipment to the range where the police did their practices, and he would train them in the sniping. And then he wanted to start his own gun range, which he eventually did. But he was running the sniper business, and he found the snipers like to have lots of badges and medals and things. And then he started developing some special equipment for sniping so they could set up quickly in any location. And pretty soon he had 15 people working in his basement. You could barely get around. I visited him there, and they were all very happy when he bought the gun range because they had their regular offices that they could go to. But I can't believe the neighbors didn't complain because the UPS truck was up and down the street twice a day. And but very successful at it, and it's doing well with the gun range. But you just have to look at what the business is. There's a lot of people who I got a neighbor up north who makes fly rods in his workshop. He doesn't make a lot of them, but they're $1,400-1,500 a piece, so it's a nice little hobby for him. And many things start as a hobby, so it's hard to say. I think Savita had the best point. Is we tell everybody, find something you have a passion for, because if you don't have a passion for it, you're going to give up in the middle, because it's going to be rough. There's going to be times that are tough to get along with, but there's a lot of things you can do from home, and. We have several members that get her to come visit SCORE and sit in on some of these things. One of the other things you learn at some of the workshops is lots of people and lots of different businesses. So you start talking to them and hear what they do and how they do it.
So just recommended anybody can visit you at your office too in this address.
Yeah, you can. There's brochures in the back. If you didn't get one already.
I have one. This one, right? Yeah.
This brochure is our SCORE Detroit brochure. If you go to the website, detroit.score.org, you can request mentoring.
Yes, sir.
You can see a schedule of our workshops, and you can even look at the mentor resumes, pick out somebody you might want, or you can just put in the request. We'll call you and set up an appointment at one of our locations. We got about a dozen locations around that we use. And inside of this is a listing of all the organizations we could find at the time. There's more now that provide some sort of funding that are non-banks. These are not banking organizations. These are people that provide funds one way or another. There's crowdfunding in there. There's different microloan organizations that can go up to $50,000 and so forth. I also dropped off, we just got this in Arabic yesterday, and it's a guidebook we put together on a checklist for capital resources. So if you are looking for capital, here's things you gotta have ready for whoever you're going to, whether it's a bank or another organization or anyone, partner. And unfortunately, we're out of the English versions, but we do have Arabic versions back there. So if you'd like one, please take it. As I mentioned before, the SBA's book is there, and that's got all the steps in starting a small business as well, and all the other organizations, including SCORE, that can help you start a business. So take advantage of those. Please, if you'd like to get our emails, we send out emails through Constant Contact every month listing our activities, also giving small business advice. Sign on back there, and we'll put you on our email list, and you won't be flooded with things, but about once a month you'll get some good information from us. If you like, you can always go to sba.gov/MI for Michigan, and they have a lot of programs there that you can also work with. And that, much of their job is to help form small businesses. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. Pick up some brochures, sign the register. I think Savita and Ron can stay around for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, you want to talk to them personally or myself, please come up here and do it. So thank you for your attention. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your audience.
Thank you, SCORE. And now I would like to bring up the backbone of the Yemeni American Chamber of Commerce. I forgot to say my name. My name is Ibrahim Al-Jahim, Public Relations for the Yemeni American Chamber of Commerce. Closing remarks, I would like to bring in Ben Bawazir, Chairman and Founder.
Thank you, Ibrahim. I want to thank State Representative Abdullah Hamoud, State Representative Isaac Robinson, also Lauren Greenwood, and I want to thank all the attendees. And I hope we learn. Myself, I'm a realtor. I've been doing real estate for 13 years, and I think it's great. I learned a lot today. I encourage everybody to attend all our upcoming business seminars for the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce. Please follow us online through our social media for the next event. I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Also a very active person and the director of the Hamtramck Citizens Patrol, and a businessman, Adnan Goba. Thank you for coming also.
Sorry, I guess forget one more thing. We have Tom here from Constellation. Please take a minute. He's working with the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce, introducing the gas utilities for small business. So please, when you visit him, take advantage of his program. Thank you.
Can I say one thing? Besides the Constellation, looking at the gas prices, there's a concept.
Okay, for about a year I've been working with Ben, very active in the Arab American community, the Yemeni community. And we're in energy. I'm the president of a 1,300-man organization, men and women across the nation selling gas and electricity. But our lead concept is what we call audits, energy billing audit. And we look at your bills to see if you've been misbilled by DTE or consumers or in Toledo Edison territory. And these errors are far more common than you would think. 2 out of 3 bills have errors. And state law lets you go back 4 years and recover money. Now on small businesses, we recover $2,000, $4,000, $10,000, $20,000 routinely. For proof of concept, our firm has recovered for Eastern Michigan University $350,000. Greektown Casino, $600,000. Delta Dental, $400,000. So I don't care how small you are, how big you are, the fact that there's a state law that you can recover money from consumers with DTE proves they make errors. And we got the proof. I'll show you that canceled checks. We get back to those people. So there's no cost for our service. If we find errors, and 2 out of 3 times we do, we split the money. If you're the 1 out of 3 that have been billed perfectly by DTE or consumers, it's like getting a good EKG from your doctor. We pat you on the back and say you were one of the lucky ones. Even if we spent hours on that, there's no fees. So I don't know why anybody would not do this. 2 out of 3 odds we're going to find your money. So the last thing I'd say, anybody that gives Ben or me your address, email address, I'll send you a newspaper article that 3 weeks ago DTE was fined almost $1 million. Channel 12 covered it on their news program on the messed up bills from DTE. That's the biggest endorsement I could get. You know, public radio, TV saying DTE, the Michigan Public Service Commission says they make so many mistakes that they fine them almost $1 million. I don't know how many businesses are here, but 2 out of 3 of you could get a check back from our work. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Ben and the Yemeni American Chamber of Commerce for putting this event on, sponsoring it, providing the good food back there. So thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Skip.
Thank you so much.
Great job, guys. Great.